everybody. Welcome back to Musings by Nikki. I am Nikki and I am here today with a little bit more work on the Wildflower journal and journal project. Today I am going to make some of these fold over like little mini notebook things. I don't know what to call them. And then also some I've started kind of just putzing through decorating the pages, but let me see if I can find the other example of what I made. Okay, here. These Wildflower die cut cutout flip outs like this. So I'm going to show you how I did those. And I've just started kind of decorating some of the pages in these, but I've got my pile of supplies. So what I want to show you, I used my Tim Holtz die cuts and cut out this massive pile of flowers, like flowers and little greenery and just different pieces, right? Bits and pieces of things, little ferny type of things. And I cut them out of a bunch of different colors, so they're a tangly mess, but you can slowly extract like one or two things, right? So I've got this big pile of these, but as I'm cutting them, I like to save so this is this sheet that I send through. So I lay out all my little dies on here, and then I crank it through my Big Shot. And then I'm left with this lovely sheet of negative space, I would call it, negatives. And sometimes when you cut dies, you know, when you use die cut on a piece of paper, you just get big circles or something. Those are fun to use too. I challenge you to use them in fun ways. But when you cut out the flowers, these leave such like pretty, if you're kind of intentional about how you lay out, even if you're not, how you lay out your dies, when you go through the machine, you're left with this cool looking sheet of negative space. So here's what I do. I've done this in the past. And because the other thing is then, as you are cutting pages down, big 12 by 12 pieces, to make pockets or envelopes, or to just even make fold over pages in your journal, you are left with scraps of, what did I do with mine? You're left with, often left with scraps of patterned paper that you're not going to use for something, or that you want to use in your journal. So I will find ones that look good layered under with enough contrast, and then glue this down, and you end up with this cool page like this, right? And you can cut it up. I mean, so here's the one thing. You have to really glue all these little tiny pieces, all these little bits. You've got to get glue down on every one of those, because otherwise, look, they're gonna pull up like this on all these little edges here. Oops. So you've got to get glue on all those little bits and pieces. Right here, all these little pieces that come down. So if you don't like tedious crafting, I tell you the fine tip on the glitter art group, the art glitter group. Oh, take two. The fine tip on the art glitter glue bottle. Say that 10 times fast. Obviously, I can't. Definitely helps. Like if you just had a regular Elmer's glue thing, this would be a hot mess. So a fine tipped bottle certainly helps to get this accomplished. But when you do, here are some examples. This one, I left myself a little flap so I can fold that around and make it into a flip out, right? Same thing here. I don't know if this is wide enough to truly make a good flap. And I'll probably true this edge up a little. Here's one that had some like floral design behind it already. So it kind of gave this a cool look, as you can see through. Here on this one, I was a little more intentional about just doing this and leaving some space up here because I thought maybe a label or maybe, you know, layering some of the cutouts on and making this like kind of a landscape almost or something. I don't know. But I made a couple of those. Here's another one. And that's layered over some paper that already had some design and some floral design on there. Then here is a bright yellow one. And here's another one where I left a little space. Now, these are not necessarily the best cut because usually when I cut paper, I just like whack it in half so that I can feed it through my machine. And it's not until later that I remember that I want to do this with it. So if you are really good about gluing down all these little bits and pieces, you can literally slice down the middle of one of these to make this a thinner piece and use it as a belly band, use it as pockets. I mean, really, the applications for something like this are kind of endless. It's just, you know, by your imagination. But you could cut out smaller pieces of this and use it as a pocket, put a little thumb notch up there. Anyway, I'm going to make some flips out of these. So I thought one of the things that I would show you these are all glued already. So these are ready to go and I'll use these into my various journals here. But I thought what I would show you, this is my pieces cut out for the little flip over notebooks, fold over notebooks, and I'll do that in a minute. I thought what I'd show you is literally how tedious this is, but what I mean by attention to detail is important. So I'm going to flip to the back side. With a die cut, usually where the die goes through leaves a nice kind of round finished edge, and then on the inside it looks like it's a little more raw, or on the back side, I guess. I don't know. If you use a die cutter, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. Otherwise, you'll probably think I'm crazy. And then I'm going to move this page out from under it because I don't want glue getting through, because you will surely get glue onto whatever surface you're gluing on. So I am gonna, let's see, can I zoom in down here? There, okay. I am gonna show you what I mean when I say tedious gluing. And now, of course, you have to remember that our glitter glue dries rather quickly, so you kind of have to be quick about this too. But right here you have to get down in all these little edges like this, and then over here we got to go on all these little tiny pieces, and I just try to put little drops in here like so. Yeah, because otherwise all these little pieces are going to flip up once it's glued down, and then you'll have to be trying to mitigate that by re-gluing and stuff. This one, you've got to get some on these long, skinny, stemmy pieces here. So anyway, I'm going to, for the sake of time, see it's already getting on my table, but that's okay. I can wipe that off. So for the sake of time, I am going to fast forward through me getting glue on the rest of this, and then I will rejoin you. Okay guys, now I am just going to kind of try to line this piece up. I had to do that quick because this part up here where I started, it starts getting, oh, I'm all skewed, weird. There we go. So that piece up there starts getting dry, and I've got little tiny bits of glue, but there we go. Now, you don't want to run your hand over this because you got to make sure you tack down, and you gotta make sure you tack down everything, but you're going to get little spots where you missed or it dried too fast. So you got to go back and re-tack those spots. But I just push down and make sure all these little tiny rib pieces and stuff as best I can. Make sure all of those get stuck down really good. And if I missed a spot, I try to go in and put a little dab of glue in there. And there we go. I'm going to flip it over and give it one more good. Because on the back side, I can rub it down, you know, really good. And I don't have to worry about peeling up any of those little places. So this is now additional journaling space, unless you use it as a pocket, of course. But if we use it in the manner that I was, you know, doing, then it'll be a flip out. And obviously this is like kind of a weird edge, so that'll need to be straightened, and probably this bottom edge will be straightened up because the flower part is up there. So to cut this down, let's see what I will do to kind of true up these edges is go along and just give that side a trim, and then make this side nice and neatened up there. And I think this side, well, I'll give that side a little trim too, just right along the edge. There we go. Now we've got this cool little piece, and like I said, you can use this in a lot of different ways, but this is something, you know, that you oftentimes would just throw away, and now here it is as this cool additional piece. And I don't know how to show you this on camera, but when you're flipping through a book, like I've got a lot of natural light from my big window over there, you can actually see, oh there, you can kind of see it now, right? So like as you turn the page in the book, depending on the light, you actually see through this, which I think looks really cool too, right? You can kind of see that. Yeah. Anyway, I've done this with vellum behind it before, and that's really cool. You can do it with like tracing paper. You can do it with pattern paper or something very thin. That looks really cool if you can see through it. You know, that looks cool onto the next page, whatever's behind it in your journal. So anyway, and then the way that I would turn this into a flip, I've got this piece here of just a long strip of cut off from the edge of one of my pages that I was cutting down. And so I will take something like this, and I usually get out my scoreboard and give it a nice, you know, fold in half, but you don't have to have fancy tools. You don't have to have the scoreboard. You know, you can probably do your best to fold this in half, and we're just making a hinge like so. Okay, so I'm going to give that a nice crisp fold. And then I probably want to hinge this edge because I don't want to cover, if I went over here, I'd cover up flowers, right? I don't want to do that. So I'll come over to this edge and do make the hinge here. So I'm going to tap it and line it up as best I can flush on the top. And then I will come down here and give it a snip at the bottom. And then I'll glue down. So leaving it over, right now it's over the page like this, right? So it's just pushed on, and I kind of tap it to make sure it's pushed on all the way. And then I put my finger, once it's pushed on all the way, I put my finger here to hold it down, so as I fold it open, it doesn't pull it out any. And I open it up and then put some glue on. And then fold it back over and get the glue off of the desk that I just put on there. And now I have created a hinge. So the back side is free. So now this can go over the edge of any page. So let me get another signature here that I haven't put anything in yet. And Let me find a page with no tab. So here's a page right here. Decide if I want to put it here. I can just put the hinge on this side and then glue it down, and then that creates the fold out, right? So if you like what is on one side of your hinge, you can do it this way. But if you really, like, this is a really pretty page from the kit that I'm using. So if I didn't want to hinder it, I can fold the hinge over and glue on this side and then line it up like so along the edge. And then that way it still opens, but the inside of the hinge is glued down here along the edge of this page. And you can do that if you wanted to, say you wanted to move it in a little bit so it wasn't right on the edge. You can hinge it that way, closer in the middle of the page. You can do this if you want to make smaller things hinged too. Like sometimes I'll put, I made some tags. I was going to show you this too. I made some tags the same way. So I have a tag die cut, and then I put a few little pieces of flower die cuts in the middle of it and ran it all through, and then glued some back paper on there. But if I've done things like, hinge a little tag on here, so you can open that up and it's a hidden journaling space like that. So you can hinge in the middle of a page too. But these are going to be, hinged on the edge. So let's see if I don't want to put it on that page because I don't want to cover up. Let's see. Let's go on the edge of this one. So I am gonna get it centered top and bottom. And you can see it is, since I cut it down, it's got just a little bit of head space and a little bit of bottom space, which is just fine. And I've got it over the edge of my page. And I want to make sure that it's all the way on there, top to bottom, really good. And then I'm going to apply some glue to the other side of my hinge. You can also sew these on. Sometimes I'll put minimal amount of glue on here and then go back and sew over it because, I love to sew lots and lots in my journal. This one I'm just gluing on. And I push it down really good. And then the next thing I do is flip it over and make sure that I didn't glue it shut. Because if you get too much glue right near the fold, you can glue this hinge shut, and then you go to open it and it tears and pulls. So you want to make sure you're not doing that. Anyway, that is a kind of a simple, I hope it wasn't too quick an explanation, but that's a simple way to create interest. This goes in here, and this goes in here. In my signatures, if you've followed me for any amount of time, I usually do all my decorating of my signatures before I bind because I like to do extra sewing. And it's hard to do the sewing. Oh my gosh, I've got it all out of whack. There we go. It's hard to do extra sewing if your book's already bound. So here we go. We fold the page, and then we come to this page, and now we've got this cool design on the edge. And then when we flip the page, now we've got an extra big flip out that provides now a 3-page spread. I'll probably put some little stuff on the back side of this, or a label or something to decorate it so when you open it up. But look at the prettiness that adds. But it doesn't take away the journaling space behind it. Matter of fact, it actually adds extra journaling space. So there's that. Then the other thing I wanted to do was show you this little piece that I was making. And this is just another way to add some additional journaling space, because you open it up and there's all of this journaling space. But it also adds some embellishment, and then you can clip it in. And if you put some sari silk on, or a ribbon or something, that adds even extra floof to the top of your journal. I'm a fan of the floofiness. So this, again, comes from, as I am setting up my signatures, I end up with all these long pieces of cutoff, as I'm cutting a 12 by 12 down to an 8.5 by 11 to fold over. So I get all these extra pieces. And the ones that aren't so specific, or, you know, like this just has some writing and it goes multiple directions, or like these flowers, they can totally go sideways like this. So I'm going to use this. Let's just do this one. And then I take some scrap pieces, or a whole piece even, of coffee stained. This is some of my lace dyed paper. So I'm going to fold that in half, and it doesn't even matter. These are not the same length. So when I fold this in half and that in half, they are not going to be the same length, but that's okay. If you look at this, I kind of like the way that they're not the same length. It adds some interest. So you could cut this down to be the same length if that bothers you. But I'm going to put this folded piece over this folded piece, and you can do it centered like this, so there's some extra on both sides. You can go over to the edge like this, so it leaves you a little bit of extra space here, because then you could do something like, you know, put a cute little piece of this along the edge. And let me get a darker one so you can see. You could go with a piece of something like this along the edge, so then that complements the color here. But then when you flip it open, you know, you'll still see that. It's really kind of, the sky's the limit with this. It's just a fun little way to add some extra journaling space. It's hidden, you know, journaling space, or secret journaling space, because you can journal in here. And it's easier to journal on because you can literally take this whole piece off and journal in there, or decorate or whatever, and then clip it back on. It also means that, you know, if this is bulky, because like here I used one of my clusters that we made. So if I want to put this cluster on here, well, that might make it hard to journal on the back of this, or on the page in front of this. So you can take this out, and then that eliminates that as well. I kind of like the way that looks. I'm going to set it right here. Anyway, here is the next step. Now you can do this a couple of ways. You could put some staples up here if you wanted to. You could run a thin bead of glue along the edge of this, and then just try to seat them together and glue them in there like this. I like to run some stitching along the edge of this. And can you see that stitched there? And it's just a straight stitch that I use. But in order to stitch straight in the ditch, I think that's like a quilting term, I use just, this is kind of a light yellow felt tip pen. And I kind of fold like this, and I just very lightly trace right along in the edge of the ditch. You can't even really see it, but I can see it with my naked eye just enough so that when I go to stitch through, I know right where the line is to follow. So I seat them together like this, and then I put my thumbs there and very carefully open it up. And then I'm gonna go sew right along that yellow line. And if you've been very careful to not move these two, if you are not sure of your ability to not move them, you can always go like this and then put some paper clips on so that you don't, you know, move them or skew them. But I just find I have no time for that. So I'm gonna go sew this, and I'll be right back. All right, so you can see I stitched through. It helps that I'm using yellow top stitching. If you were using pink thread, you could certainly do a pink felt tip or a pink line there, or pencil, so you could erase it. But then I've got pink bottoms threads right now, so you can see right there. And then it folds over, and now it opens beautifully, and you can go through and decorate. So like I said, I kind of like the way that looks, and I might just go with that. I could add, if I wanted, ooh, I kind of like that a little bit extra there. again, for the fine tip glue is such a win for putting these little die cuts on here, because all these little tiny branches. I've often, when I'm doing a book like this where I'm using these very delicate die cuts, I've often thought, I wonder about spray glue. But the only thing with that is it is such a nauseous odor, and I tend to be sensitive to that stuff anyway. Plus, I think it would just be like I'm already a sticky mess when I'm doing this kind of stuff. So I'm pretty sure spray glue would be no different. I'm going to glue this down. It is a gorgeous day outside. My mom was just over here. I was just getting ready to film, and I could see my mom pull up outside. Hold on. And she was getting out and saw me in the window, and I went out there, and she said, "Oh, I hope I thought you were about to start recording." And I said, "Well, I am, but I saw you out here." We have deer in around here, and we have town deer, and they have been, I'm not kidding, they have been so obnoxious this year. These are some of those labels that we spattered, and maybe I want one of those with some little leaves. The deer have just been obnoxious, but I don't know if yellow is the right color. Let me see if I can peel some other things out of here. I also have my pile of die cut, or not die cut, but fussy cut flowers from my kit, except this is way too busy. If I layered one of those on top of this, like, it would just get lost. So 'tis not the time for that. I kind of like the green. It's very subtle, right? It's very subtle, but it's just enough that you kind of notice it, which I kind of like that. I'm gonna say I really like that. I think I'm gonna go with that one. So she was over here. She's had to, for the first time in maybe ever, she's got some really nice raised garden planter beds that my dad built her many years ago, and she grows all kinds of stuff in them in her yard, which is just literally across the street from here. And she's had to put up bird netting on everything. They have gone through and eaten all her beans down, her bean plants. They're eating both of our squash plants. They're eating my sunflowers. Like, they're eating everything. There's hoof prints all in the dirt of my wildflower garden, because there's certain of those that they apparently like. And so, yeah, she's got bird netting all over everything, and she's just they eat everything out of our bird feeders. Last year, one of them stomped my bird feeder, and like, they knocked it down overnight and stomped it. So now I don't fill it more than like a quarter full at a time. I also have some very little, I was trying to think, do I want another one, something else over the top, but that might be too much. I kind of like how simple that looks. So yeah, the deer, they are pests. They are menaces. And as fun as they are to watch, there's one, tis the fawn season. So we've got this really pretty one, little fawn that hangs out back around behind our yard. I've got a little piece of sari silk here, so let's see if I can, it's kind of short, but I bet I can get it on here. I just put it on the edge of the paper clip, kind of the same way you would put it through a tag, just with a, what do you call this? Not a slip knot. I'm sure there's a name for it, but it has been many a year since I was a Girl Scout. Anyway, like that. So now you've got just a little extra cuteness. And then let's find a page. So if I put it here, that would be like, whoa, patternness, a little overload. But there, that's pretty on this page. Yeah, and put it right here. And look at how quickly you can mass make these. And then you can adjust the paper clips to the different sides of things so that as you've got them going in your signatures, I'll put this one back on here and show you what I'm talking about. that they don't all just line up down the middle. It kind of adds layers of floof to the outside edges and the inside edges. So if we go like this, and then we close this up, then there you go. See, they're offset. And if I've got another one, I've got another one in here. Oh, look at that, layering it up nice. So now not only do we have the fun floofiness over here, but we're getting some fun edging going on there. So there is this, these are two kind of quick and easy. You can mass make these. They're really fun and easy. And if you're trying to use up a bunch of scrap, this offcut stuff, right? This is a really fun, easy way. You can put a whole nother piece of paper on here. You can layer up like 3 different offcuts like this. And if you offset the bottom edge like this and fold them over, you get kind of a waterfall thing going on. And then you can decorate it and put those on your page. I mean, these little, just zip a line of sewing or a couple staples, and they fold over, and then they end up decorating 2 pages, but you don't lose any of the journaling space here. Moreover, you add some journaling space. So today, these 2 crafts that we've done are 2 ways to add some journaling space to your, and then this is another one too. I put, instead of just putting the pocket on this page right here, it would have kind of got lost in that, you know, busyness of this floral and this floral. But when I put it over this, and this is again another offcut piece, and I put this here, so now I've got a pocket with a tag in it, but it also flips up, and now we've gained some journaling space. And I could still decorate here. This is too busy to probably journal on, but I could also put a piece of, you know, this is wallpaper, but I could put something there that's hidden behind it. So then when you flip it open, you've got more journaling space there. So these are just some ideas on ways to add journaling space, but add embellishments as well, so that you're not losing your journaling space, but by adding embellishments, right? Here's another one. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this quick little video. My next few days are going to be a little bit busy because my 19-year-old wants to drive over to Moorhead, which is like by North Dakota, by Fargo, and that's 4 hours away, to look at a minivan. Yes, my 19-year-old wants to buy a minivan. So she wants to go over and look at it, but she needs me to go with. So that might be in the next few days. And we've been trying to get over to the school gym to work out with my daughter, the one that had surgery, with Joy, trying to get her, you know, her serving really good for her volleyball and stuff. So we go over there as many times a week as we can. We've been doing that. So anyway, my next few days are going to be a little busy. And the next week she turns 16, you guys. Then I will have a 16 and a 19-year-old. This year, I will have a 16 and a 20-year-old. My other one turns 20. That blows my mind. I'm going to stop talking about it because I do not feel old enough to have a 20-year-old. Anyway, that's my mini life update. And I am going to make some more of these because I've got these this 5 signature journal. That's what these are signatures for. And then I've got my 3 1 signature journal. So as I am making this set of journals, I'm going to keep using some of these supplies and make some more of these because they just will be a great little thing to clip in and add some decoration to these journals. I'm also going to finish these flip outs and put them into some journals as well. Like I said, here's, you know, another way. So if you've used the die cuts, you can certainly layer them up, layer up some of the actual die cuts on top, and then trim this edge off, right? And so then you've got kind of a shadow effect going. But as long as the paper underneath isn't super busy, this is a fun way to add some layers to these as well. But I kind of just like them like this. You know, I don't mind just this. This is really pretty, this shadow look. So I'm going to finish these up and get them in the journals, pick places to put them, and then make some more of these. And keep putzing with these journals, and I will be along in another day or two here to do some more decorating and embellishing with these. Thanks for joining me today, guys. I hope you are having a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever time it is, on whatever side of this fantastic globe of ours that you live on. And until I see you next time, take care, stay safe, and God bless you guys. Bye-bye.